last time, like I mentioned earlier, and the response was crazy. So crazy that it scared the crap out of me. So now I had to make the decision, either you're going to do this or not. Leave it alone if you're not, but if you are, give it 100%. So tonight or this morning, thank you for helping me give 100%. Also, want to take the time to mention that this event was posted on Monday, June 27th at 1:51 p.m. And within 54 minutes, RSVPs started rolling in. And the first three people, Laren Brown, Kimmy Robinson Weeding, and Michelle Elkins. I know I see one. Do I see two? Kimmy Robinson, are you here? Well, I have something for you all when we get out of here. Thanks for believing in the dream. Don't forget, take selfies, post them as we go along, and make sure that you meet someone new before you leave. You can find friend me on Facebook. It's just Nicci Roach, Nicci Roach, on Facebook. Also on Twitter, it's the same thing. And just launched this week the Covenant Exchange page, group page, so you can go out there and keep up with what's going on, because what's going to happen, this will become a community for resources, for different things that we'll need no matter what space or category you think you fall into. We need to all be in the space of rethinking possible from time to time. Also, you never know when I'll call on you to help me do something. Also, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our guest. And I'm having them walk down because we do not celebrate ourselves enough. So I want you to just ignorantly give it up for them when they come down. Because if it were you, you would want somebody to show some love. But the thing is, it is you. As she said, I'm a reflection. So, met this young lady about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and she was working, doing some magic with computers and charts and graphs and all this marketing. That's foreign to me. I know nothing about that, but she was making it work. And I had a chance to meet her in the halls of the old post office building downtown, and she was working with an organization, but even then I knew that space was way too small for her. I saw it. So Antoinette Carroll, come on up. Whoop, whoop. Wherever. She is the founder and president, CEO of Creative Reaction Lab, a nonprofit social enterprise whose mission is cultivating creative leadership to improve the human experience through immersion of challenges. She is truly the next level when it comes to marketing, branding, and design. She is passionate also about diversity, inclusion, and to equity. Her response to Ferguson, Missouri, and the events that occurred in 2014 was her inspiration for launching this company in the form of a 24-hour lab. Today, they have grown to host numerous immersive experiences focused on design thinking and social innovation throughout the nation. Bragging moment, Antoinette was selected as one of 45 in the United States to design the button for Hillary Clinton's campaign. And right here in St. Louis. Yeah, one of 45 in the U.S. You can now buy those buttons. They are on Hillary Clinton's website. Regardless who it's not about politics, it's about our sister on a global scale. Next, I had the chance of meeting this next beautiful spirit. She was giving an announcement at a place, I forgot the name of it back in U City. It was a little lounge. And what's so funny, I had just moved back to St. Louis from New York, and she was announcing this play that she was having, and she wanted to get people there. And I just happened to be there on a humbug because my aunt, who's in the house, who pushed me into TV, needed a host at the last minute, and they were undressing me literally because I had on a white shirt. And they said, you can't wear that. But I'm listening to this announcement, and this person, full of all this energy, ends up announcing this play, Lord Knows I've Tried, that was getting ready to go on the road on tour. LaShawn Pace, Terrell Phillips from Blackstreet, Sean Levert, Joe Torre, just to name a few of the people who were going to be on this tour. Well, she ends up calling me. Well, we connect, we do an interview, and she calls me a couple weeks later and offers me an opportunity to go on the road as the lead with the play. Marty Casey, come on up. So I'm taking the time, again, we don't celebrate enough, so just bear with me. Marty Casey is the founder and artistic director of Show Me Arts Academy and was born and raised right here in St. Louis. Her career has expanded over 20 years in the entertainment industry. To say she's a triple threat would be an understatement. Marty has a notable success as a singer, actress, writer, producer, director. She has founded 2 companies, Casey Entertainment, and currently the nonprofit Show Me Arts Academy, which was also started in response to Ferguson. Marty has performed all over the United States, Germany, and France. She is best known for her performance role and her role as professional woman in the award-winning hit stage play Menopause the Musical. Marty has since appeared in several professional plays, and she has performed at the Fabulous Fox 4 different occasions, including the play in which she wrote and directed through her company. She has television credits, The Oprah Winfrey Show, CBS, NBC, and don't forget Lyrics, that was on CBS. The Price is Right as well on CBS. She is currently debuting in the gripping dramatic feature film called 4-Way Stop. This film has been recognized for 2 honors in the San Francisco Film Fest in 2015, and it is already being classified as a hit in Marty's repertoire, earning her a Best Supporting Actress award at the Free State Festival in Lawrence, Kansas. Brag moment, Marty recently took her youth tour on the 2016 Spreading the Love Youth Tour via the Show Me Arts Academy, and she was featured locally on Channel 2 and Channel 11, but she took them to DC, New York, Alton, a number of the places, and in DC, 4 networks covered her. On August the 27th, she will receive the Arts Volunteer of the Year Award from Matthew Dickey's Boys and Girls Club. Marty Casey. Next, so you had a chance to hear a little snapshot of how we are partnering at this moment, but how we met. I used to host the Freeman Bosley Jr. show that was on at that time, 100.3 The Beat. And during that time, there's a young lady that we would run into each other because the show Sunday Morning Live came on right after. And she's like, so what are you doing? Let me see this, let me see that. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? Let me see this, let me see that. And we just connected because we realized we needed each other. And I have not been able to shake this sister. But she's the one who helped me. I call her my midwife because she literally helped me push what was on the inside out. And what's interesting, we go back and forth because we have to sharpen each other because it's lonely in this place of dreaming. So put your hands together. Jade, Harrell. Okay, Jade, charismatic creator and executive producer of Rare Gem Productions, who we are channeling and streaming through today. Positive media production, promotion, and creative consultation company. Her life work includes extensive charitable efforts, appearances, presentations, promotions in television, radio, and books, stage plays, and conferences, just to name a few. Jade began her career in primetime lunchroom DJ at her high school's radio station. See, doesn't happen overnight. Jade has made appearances and fell into commercial radio with her sincerity to commitment to community, and host and producer, former producer of the Sunday Morning Live show, which was on Clear Channel at that time. She now produces over 20 programs, including the #1 ranked health show in the country on iTunes. The #1, the Model Health Show, which has 5 million listener downloads. She also is the brains and body behind the award-winning program Alive and Well in the STL. She is currently an on-air personality 7 days a week. You can hear her between one of these stations, Hallelujah 16 a.m., 100.3 FM The Beat, Z1077 Wild, 104.9 FM, and 93.7 The Bull. So she is busy. Brag moments. Brag moment, I had a chance to witness this. She was recently inducted into the Grace Hills Women's Business Center Wall of Fame. Yes. She was featured in the St. Louis American, the St. Louis Business Journal, huge center spread. And her contributing work recognized for St. Louis, by Focus St. Louis, the 19th annual What's Right in the Region Awards. So thank you, Jay, for all you do. So remember I told you you should always have these 3 mentors, one of a different race. Well, one lady who is just absolutely amazing, she's not here with us, but her name is Jerry Schultz. And she had a chance to connect with me actually when I took on not this current role, but a former role. And she was like, I've been watching you. I see something in you. I want to take you under my wing. So she took me under her wing, and she not only mentored, she sponsored. And that's another event where we can talk about the difference. But just in a nutshell, sponsorship means they come scoop you up and they give you access. And they position you and they speak on your behalf. And when you're not there, they still advocate for you. She did that. Well, in that advocating, she connected me with this absolutely amazing woman named Nancy Imes. Put your hands together for Nancy. So Nancy, what's interesting, because people say, oh my gosh, it's women of color, I thought, but women of color and culture. So culture crosses everything. And why did I do that? Because Nancy says, I want to be a part of this. She was like, I don't have all the access either. So I said, oh, I have something for you. So Nancy is the founder of Polished, and her story is so powerful. We have it captured on a podcast. She's the founder of Polished, which is an empowering leadership and professional development coaching organization. Highly dedicated to the results-oriented, she has the passion and skill for helping individuals, businesses, and organizations achieve success. From business leaders, athletes, politicians, and individuals, and recent college graduates, high schools, and children, Nancy acknowledges the inspiring programs help many unlock their potential in extraordinary leadership, presence, power, and polish. She offers a fun, interactive approach in her enrichment and development programs that can be custom designed to meet the client's goals and objectives. Brag moment. So she's been in the industry when it comes to the corporate world and leadership for over 20 years, and she has taken all that to give back. Last month, Polish was selected for the 2016 St. Louis Award in the education category by the St. Louis Award Program. So this award recognizes Polished for its excellence in professional and personal development with an emphasis in soft skill training. This is St. Louis. St. Louis right here. I'm excited, and thank you for bearing with me. I had to read that because I need you to see why I'm excited. So we're going to jump right in. There is an author, motivational speaker by the name of Greg Reed who said that you cannot have $1 million dreams and a minimum wage work ethic. So we're going to start right there. And I will start with Antoinette. So the quote is, you cannot have $1 million dreams and a minimum wage work ethic. What has, because all of you all are entrepreneurs, but what's interesting, they all have kids, they all have husbands, they all have other things going on. What would you say has been an aha moment that you didn't realize you needed to possess to be successful in so far?
And can you hear me okay? Okay, wonderful. You know, I love that quote because it really shows the importance of hustling, which I don't think we give enough effort and enough kind of thought to that. Automatically we see success and we think, I want that, right? I'm gonna get that. And then we try it for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 months. We're like, it apparently wasn't for me. That's not hustling, okay? Like the aha moment for me was, you know, honestly meeting with so many different people around the country, and they came to me and said, you know what, I admire you. You're the hardest working woman I ever met. And I never paid attention to it because it was something that I've always done. It was instilled in me from my grandparents. And they told me, it was funny, they told me, you don't need to be rich, but you need to make enough to pay for a maid. And to get there, because my grandma was a housekeeper. My grandmother was a housekeeper. And so she worked and she grinded and she had a daycare and she was the primary breadwinner in that house. And she was saying to me, you know what? You have to hustle, you have to grind. Opposed to being in the position that I'm in, I need you to be able to afford someone like me. And I would never personally have a maid besides my sisters. But, but she taught me that, you know, when we hear independence, we think of it as a bad thing. But it's really about fighting and working hard for what you believe in. And being an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, or, you know, that 9-to-5 worker, because my first job was sweeping up at hair salons and then actually working at Burger King. I'm not ashamed of where I came from because that taught me that I had to grind to get where I am. And today I'm even grinding even more. So that's what you need to kind of remember whenever whatever you're doing, that you have to hustle harder to get what you want.
Same question for
Yes.
me? Okay, well, my donut hasn't really kicked in. I'm going to have you repeat that question again. I was so engaged in her answer, I forgot the question. I know I'm not the only one, so we all want to know, what was that question?
No, and I'll switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
What skill set have you had to lean into more? Because you had to restructure some things. So even tap into that. You had to restructure, reinvent. What did you tap into to do that?
Wow, that's a good question. You got to watch Nicci. She will hit you hard early in the morning. Okay. I'm going to say this. I've always been a heavy-set baby. I came into the world heavy, and I've always been a heavy-set young lady growing up, and so self-confidence always had to be out front for me in terms of opportunity. When you look at, and you can take it however you want to take it. I don't take it as it being negative, because at being 45 right now in my life, it works for me because it makes me different. And different is always exciting. And when you can excite other people, they want you. They want you just the way you are. So, ladies, if I can offer anything in terms of skill set, own who you are.
Drop the mic. That was good. That was good. So along the skill set for me is what you apply to any task. Like Antoinette, I've done every kind of job out there. I've put caps on aerosol cans in an assembly line. I've driven the preschool bus. I mean, if you've ever had 1 or 2 preschoolers, imagine a bus full and you're trying to get somewhere, you know. But also, I worked the graveyard shift at this radio station through pregnancies, waddling in there at 3 o'clock in the morning to try to turn on some charm. So no matter what the task is, the same skill set applies, and that is pouring your whole self into it. Now, you mentioned you can't have $1 million dream on a minimum wage mindset. That's true about the mindset, but work ethic, excuse me. That's true about the work ethic and the mindset, but not necessarily the actual wage. I'm making the same beans I was making 11 years ago for that company. And when somebody asks me, really? I say, well, I don't work for them. For me, I work for God. And my accountability there has made me get up every day, show up, even when I don't feel like seeing it all the way through. There's some tough, dark days. Everybody's had them. So the skill set is being able to sustain through the difficult times, to pour your best into whatever space that's in, because you may even outgrow it, which will then probably spill into your vision. But whatever the task it is, do it with all your might. With all your might. Heart, body, soul, spirit. So soul and spirit, whichever one you want to do first.
That was good. Thank you. Well, thank you, Nicci, for allowing me to be here this morning. I really appreciate it. My aha moment would be growing up in a family, I'm one of 6 siblings, a very loving family. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. In fact, my dad put himself through college at night, working 2 or 3 jobs during the day. And so I sort of saw his work ethic, trying to raise his, and my mom too, trying to raise all of us, putting food on the table. But the whole kind of the aha moment, and I'm still getting it today, is, and it sounds kind of goofy, but fake it till you become it. And it's kind of Amy Cuddy's mantra. I don't know if you're familiar with Amy Cuddy's TED Talk, but I didn't have the luxury of having doors open for me. I mean, I had to knock on those doors. I was an observer. I was one of those types who knew that I wanted to have a better life than my parents gave me. As much as I appreciated everything that they gave me, I wanted more. And so, I went to Mizzou for college. My dad, I think, put it on his MasterCard or whatnot. And, it was hard. It was not something they could afford. But I took advantage of that opportunity. And I kind of have a twofold, like, fake it till you become it, and also no risk, no reward. You have to put yourself out there. It's scary. I mean, there is always going to be somebody better than you, but there's always going to be somebody, like you who's not going to put themselves out there. And so I still do that today, and I still get butterflies, calling on a big company, little Nancy, trying to get work at a Bank of America or Anheuser-Busch or an Equifax. And I have all those clients because I've always been true to myself, and people see that. People really do see your authenticity. They get it. You can tell somebody who is not genuine. And I don't have a master's degree or certifications. I have, continued on and gotten some more education, but I don't have a postgraduate degree. But that doesn't matter. I mean, I am just a regular person who is trying to provide for my children. And if I'm lucky, and this is my goal, because my parents, as much as they did the best that they could. And again, I don't want to make this about financial stuff, but I think this is part of my baggage. It's like they're not leaving a financial legacy for any of us. In fact, we're taking care of them now. So I want my 3 children, even if it's, $1,000, whatever it is, I want to be able to leave that little bit. And that's important to me. And I don't want to make things about money, but let's face it, we're all working hard and we have our passions, but to be able to leave something for them maybe to pay off a college, debt or whatever it is something that I'm still working toward in my journey. So fake it till you make it, or fake it till you become it, and no risk, no reward. Those were my 2 ahas.
Keep the mic.
Keep the mic.
So, fake it till you make it. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. All this is great. Sounds wonderful. However, we don't necessarily have that level of confidence. So, I'm a huge reader. Love reading. So, this is the confidence code. And page 101, our genetics, our schooling, our upbringing, our society, our looks, these are all factors that affect our confidence. It would be easy to simply shrug our shoulders and blame all those obstacles when we stop short and don't reach the goals that we really want. Easy, but misguided, because we are getting in our own way too often. There are things we do to ourselves as adults to kill our own confidence. So starting with Nancy, and we'll work our way back down. If you want to share a moment of vulnerability when you did not have the confidence, and then what are you doing to make sure you maintain a higher level of confidence? Because you don't just flip the switch. But what are you doing? What's your strategy?
Oh boy, that's a challenging one, because honestly, no matter what environment we are in, whether it's a work setting or a networking event, or perhaps we're, on a date and we want to make a good impression, I mean, it is all about confidence. And so again, fake it till you become it. I have been the sponge. And I remember I graduated from the J School at Mizzou, and I had an internship at the Dallas Morning News in between my junior and senior year. And I remember feeling so excited to get this internship, because, that's sort of the expectation among the students in the journalism schools. You have to have an internship, probably in lots of different areas in college. And I remember going home to tell my parents that, Mom, Dad, I have this summer internship in Dallas. And my dad he's like the no risk, no reward kind of man. And my mom has been the coupon clipper and, how are we going to buy the clothes for, school next year, whatnot. And so her always to this day, and I don't fault her for it, but her always to this day is, well, how are we going to afford that? We can't afford that. How are you going to get there? How are you going to have a car? And all these, the glass half empty. And so I said, well, my dad's like, well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. So, I did go, and I actually drove 35 miles. I was living in Denton, Texas instead of Dallas, Texas, because it was too expensive for me to live there. But I got there and I drove 35 miles every day. And my mom and dad's Honda that they gave up for me so I could do this. So, and I'm rambling. Now I'm forgetting the question.
How is it that you...
The confidence, yes. So I remember my first day, the editor took me out, and here I was my assignment was not the city desk to chase fire trucks and police cars. I was assigned to Fashion Dallas, which was the premier supplement on Wednesdays, where in Dallas people love fashion. And so here I am, a Midwestern girl, didn't have a lot of fashion, but loved it. And so they would send me off to interview, some of you may not know because you're too young, but like Bill Blass or Mary McFadden or Frank Olive. So I would go to do these interviews young, and they want seasoned. They wanted somebody who, looked the role. And I just mustered it up from my insides. And I thought, you know what? I'm just as good as that person, because they chose me to have this summer internship, and he wouldn't have sent me on this interview had I not done it. So it's up here. You got to psych yourself up for it. And it's hard. I mean, I still get butterflies when I'm talking to a group of people expecting them to listen to me, you know, the one who's wise, when they're just as wise. So you just have to muster it up, and people will, you know, we're all approachable, good people. It's just, you have to show that affectability with people. And I think that's really, quite frankly, the challenge today is people don't really show that love, if you will. I mean, they have it inside them, but it's guarded. And especially in this chaotic time, people aren't going to give their little personality away because it's maybe not politically correct on some things, or gosh forbid if they say the wrong thing that offends them in another way. So I'm always, you know, you have to have a good self-awareness of yourself, and you have to be cognizant of, you know, tact, but you can make that connection with people and be yourself. And that's, to me, that's what it's all about, is your relationship building and being true to yourself. So I kind of gave lots of different answers to that, Nicci, but I'm all about the golden rule. That's how I live. You know, be nice, do unto others as you'd like them do unto you, you know.
So all along the way, and I know you can think back to the very first time that you were self-conscious, what that thing was that was so glaringly obvious to somebody else, and they made a big deal about it, and all of a sudden you felt really small. And I don't know if any of you were little girls that before that experience, you were pretty confident, you were vibrant, excited, dancing, singing, I am everything. And then all of a sudden the mirror changed because you started seeing yourself through the lens of somebody else who was critical. For me, I was such a tomboy. She's a boy, she's a boy, she's a boy. I'm not a boy, but she's a boy. So then I'm not pretty enough, I'm not girly enough, I'm not this, that, and the other. Although I was good, I could beat any boy on the block. I could jump off of the highest fence, I could throw the farthest rock, but all of a sudden that wasn't good enough, okay? And then once we got in school, there was something else or another. Then you started developing, and you've got all of this, but not enough of that, and not enough of this, too much of that, all these various things. So all along the way, there had been something, and I'm pretty sure you can identify with this. By the time I got to radio, commercial radio, in fact, on the little bio, it says high school radio show. So you're thinking she's like in the lunchroom like that. It was not 90210. I would not say a word. There are my generations in the house. My generations, I wouldn't say a word because my confidence was not there. I could blend genres together like you wouldn't believe. I could put reggae with house, with rock, with pop. Grand creations that would then speak for me. But this, how you doing, DJ? Get back on the wheels. By the time I got to commercial radio, I had to push myself. Okay, once and for all, I'm going to do this. But I need to sound like Tammy Holland, or I need to, right, you know, there's a joke about that too. Hey, sister, I'm so glad you work on radio. Could you ask Tammy if she'll do if she'll do an event? Sure, I will. But you'll find that all along the way, self-consciousness becomes its own entity. In fact, it'll enter the room before you. It'll be its own person before you show up and even introduce you. Hey, I have no confidence, and here's Jade. So I understand how you feel, if that's how you feel. I felt the same way. But what I found out is that self-confidence also can become its own entity before you, and introduce you before you come in, you know? Rare Gem Productions, a multimedia mega conglomeration. Whoa, girl, you doing big things. Then I come in, what'd they say? Because you can, just as you pour into that self-consciousness, you can pour into the confidence and the courage, which I think is the underlying term for that, is the courage to be the thing that you know you want to be. I did a post recently. I'm like, admit it, for goodness sakes. You want this. I want it in a whisper, but you want it deep down inside of you. You want it so bad, but you won't allow it to come out. So then let that courage go before you. You can create it however you want it to be. you know? But stop introducing yourself as the thing that's behind that. Because if you introduce yourself as, hey, I'm a national talk television host, and I run a major media company, and I'm the Shonda Rhimes of positive media. Look at that, right? I ain't doing it yet. But y'all were like, yeah. The thing is, you can make it up. Just as you can accept or own the other thing. So why choose the one that diminishes you or carries along with it all the baggage that somebody else filled up for you? So admit it. Acknowledge that you can do it. You're capable. You got skills. Our papers were long, but that rap sheet of that sister, whoosh, it would be rolling all the way back to the window there. And I'm sure every single one of you would have something we'd trip over if we laid it out. But when have you allowed yourself to acknowledge, man, okay, even last year, I wasn't here. 10 years ago, I wasn't here. But have you given yourself a chance to say, hey, okay, before you're like, hey, I'm not. And the final thing is ask. There's no solos and silos that's going to get you where you're going. And nobody succeeds their way to success. They don't. And if that means your tail's hanging out, sometimes it is. But it was hanging out that day, and now I'm 7 days away from the tail hanging out. I've got experience. You know? I'm here running a live stream on my little meager equipment. But what is happening? It's happening, right? I've got one of the most dynamic engineers in the world. I mean, look, right there, that guy. He rocks with me. And you are also in a room of a young woman who not only inspired me, but is inspiring others based on that. So you got to put that out there and let it open the door and make way for you. And trust that wherever it is, it's a lot better than that door being closed because you're hiding behind the veil of lack of confidence.
So she just killed all my confidence. I'm so just kidding. Listen, be your own cheerleader, whether you're winning or losing. Be your own cheerleader. You don't stop cheering for yourself because things are not always going your way. I believe that that's really the biggest thing that I can offer when it comes to self-confidence. I've been in the entertainment business. It goes like this, you all. They say it's a starving art. You're a starving artist. Well, you see, I am not starving. So what it does for me, I hit the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, okay? But I hang on. It's just like being on a roller coaster ride. You know, you have to hang on. You have to believe I'm strapped in. This is fun. And I got on here for a reason. It's going to be okay. But, ooh, that's life. That's life. Don't beat yourself up because somebody else said no. Okay? You have to thump that little man off of your shoulder when he gets all up in your ear. See, you ain't good enough. See, you ain't got enough confidence. See, you need more education. See, you thump him off. And you keep going no matter what. I like the fact that Nancy mentioned her credentials because that's definitely something I wanted to come here and share. I graduated from high school. By the time I made it in the 9th grade here in St. Louis, I've never moved out of the city, but by the time I made it to the 9th grade in St. Louis, I'd already attended 10 different schools. 10. Okay, I moved all over this city, not by design, not because that's what I wanted, but because, again, I came from, unfortunately, a dysfunctional family where my father and my mother got a divorce, and my mother being a single mother, holding on best way she can, and, okay, we got to move from this house, we're moving to this neighborhood. It happens. That's life. I used to be somewhat embarrassed about that, but I thank my mother every day who now lives with me. As you say, we caretakers, you know, and I thank her every day for those moments because what it did, it opened up an opportunity for me to go into a place quickly, learn it fast, let them know I'm here. What we gonna do? Huh? How we gonna do this? Huh? And so with my limited education, I did 2 years of college. I had an opportunity to go to Missouri Baptist. I was the first black to receive a full scholarship in music and the first black class president. However, I did not graduate. I dropped out because I got pregnant. By the time I was 19, I was singing professionally in Vegas. And my career, of course, like I said, has been doing this. But I'm sharing that with you because my path is not your path. Your path is not my path. What is for you is simply for you. It's for you. And if you can't be confident in just being who you are because there's no one else out here like you. If you can't love on you, how you expect us to embrace you? How do you expect a man to come into your life or a woman to come into your life? How do you expect someone else to come into your life and love you and you don't love yourself? Do you even know what love feels like? You got to love on you. Regardless, if this is the path, if I don't have the degree, if I never get the master's or the PhD or whatever, if I never get it, it didn't stop my opportunities. So if I got caught up in that, I wouldn't be sitting here today, Nicci Roach. Because I know it's some PhDs and some masters out there that should be sitting in this spot if that's what I thought. But life has allowed me to embrace who I am. So can you say that with me? Life has allowed me to embrace who I am. Point to yourself. Yeah.
Lord, you didn't put me behind these pastors.
There is no offering coming up. No offering.
Lord, pass the basket. Lord, see, this is my girl right here. Like, she's like a mentor for me, and she doesn't even know it. Like, she keeps it real. You know, I'm gonna come from a different space. You know, because for me, self-confidence in life in general is a journey, and we need to remember that. You know, I'm gonna be very candid. I am 29 years old. Most people that meet me and work with me think that I'm in my 30s, think that I'm in my 40s. I literally have had people that talk about millennials, about how they are incompetent in front of me, not realizing I'm like, boo. And yet you call me all the time. Okay, you know, but with self-confidence, I grew up lower income here. I grew up in Normandy. I went to Riverview 1 year. My preschool was in Kinloch. You know, I was raised by my grandparents. My parents were still in my life, but I didn't live with them. You know, I've literally seen domestic violence on both ends. I've seen sexual assault in many ways, you know? And a lot of that does affect your confidence. And I'll admit, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie and try to make it seem like I have it perfect. I still struggle from that today. There's times that I question, am I doing the right thing? Especially when you have someone that comes behind you and say the exact same thing you just said. And you're like, maybe I didn't speak right. Like, you know, am I using the right words? You know, when I'm in a room with people from Harvard and University of Chicago and WashU, and I just got a degree from UMSL, I'm a first generation college student. You know? So for me, it's something I'm still figuring out. And I'm gonna admit, I feel like I'm Beyonce sometimes. Sasha Fierce come out. You know? Like, there'll be moments I'm sitting there and I'm like, the confidence is low as soon as I get on stage. So today we're going to. and then people, and going back to that faking it, that actually reflects on others. Because then they come to me and they're like, because of what you've said, I've decided to do this. Because of what you've done, I am now working in this space. And that's because I've learned to be honest. I used to put on this face of just confidence, and in reality, I was extremely vulnerable. But I would never share it. Because, you know, while I love my grandparents, and I mentioned earlier being independent, the negative side of that is that you don't learn to actually show people your true self. You learn to show that face, right? And as you continue to go through experiences, you continue to go on your journey, you learn, you know what, my face is beautiful. I shouldn't have to hide who I am to make you feel comfortable. You know? So I kind of sometimes go through it thinking, you know what, it's going to happen. But the way I respond to this and the way that I present myself will have it happen in two different ways. Consequences are negative and positive. And the way you present yourself determines how that comes out. And sometimes it doesn't work out the way you want it to. I literally came up with an idea in the design industry that was the entire industry called the design census. I had been pitching it for 2 years. And then Google showed up, said the exact same thing, and now they're doing it. I didn't get recognition for that. But you know what? Internet 10 years ago is a different internet from now. They got that phone call, and I was like, oh no, that's not going to work. I've been working on this too long for you to come and take this credit from me. But it happens all the time. There's times when you feel that you have a just due, but yet you don't get it. And it starts to really weigh down on you. But you have to remember, you know what? There's a reason why I'm here. You can go ahead and steal that idea, but one, I'm going to let you know about it. And then two, I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do because I'm going to get ahead of you sooner or later. I literally found out that I'm a president of an organization now. I just found out that the former president, we had competed 2 years ago for the same role. And the people that was over it said that he won by vote. Someone just sent me the screenshot of that vote. I actually won. So he had that role for 2 years while I was vice president because they decided to rig the election. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I'm now in that position. I literally have the executive director at the national level in my phone. We text all the time. That individual that said to me in my face, you're not a design leader. And there was a male, or used to say to me, call me woman, which he got shut down on that. But you have to learn to fight those battles. And it's hard. And as women, we're told that, we're supposed to be meager. We have to be nice. We can't show too much power. It makes people, uncomfortable. I said, forget all that. Because you know what? Once again, if I make you uncomfortable, we're not supposed to be in the same room together. And the last thing for any mothers in the room, I've been in situations where literally I've had people ask me, can I do a position because I have twin sons? And that's not a good place to be in. And I have some of my colleagues that will say, well, I never mention my kids in my interview. I said, oh, no, I do. You want to know why? Because that's a reflection of me. And if you can't take me, then I don't need to be here. So you need to learn that while you're interviewing for something, you're working for something, they are also trying to get you. Don't sacrifice yourself so that you can get into that position or get into that opportunity, because all it's going to do is make you unhappy. Strive for happiness in everything that you go for. And the last thing I'm going to mention, because we've talked a lot about kind of this self-affirmation, which we know is hard. It is okay to have advisors and mentors. I mentioned she's one of them. There's moments in which I am down, and I call my husband, even though sometimes he drives me crazy. He knows. He knows. But I have best friends. I have mentors in different spaces. Nicci mentioned earlier having different type of mentors. I have female mentors. I have mentors in the arts, mentor in business, mentors in the science, because guess what? People are experts in all their different areas. And it's not just about what you can give that person, but what they can give you. And you working in tangent with each other. So if you don't have an advisory committee or people that you can just lean upon, call me, because I'll be there for you. All right?
So one of my, I would say distant mentors, she doesn't know it either, but Ariana Huffington. How she just literally took nothing and made something, and she's still reinventing herself. So this is her book on becoming fearless. Fearless is not the absence of fear, but rather it's the mastery of fear. We will never completely eliminate fear in our lives, but we can definitely get to the point where our fears do not stop us from daring to think new thoughts, try new things, take risks, fail, start again, and be happy. We have so much potential, yet we hold ourselves back. So I'm going to ask each of you a different question, starting with Marty. You have been in an industry, but that industry crosses so many other industries. And one key thing we've talked about amongst each other, and we've kind of touched on, the importance of relationships. And I'm shooting this only to you. Each one will have your own on fearlessness. Whether you're an entrepreneur, you're interviewing for a job, you're even just coming into this space because you kind of sit, you beeline to who you know, or you sit down in the first seat you sit because we don't know. But we have to build relationships. Your business, your success is off of relationships. What advice can you share about that? When it comes to relationships, what are some strategies that you use?
Okay. Relationships are very important. Diversity is very important. We know right now what the fight is and where we stand, and we know that we are behind in terms of how society is viewing us and our value. We understand that, but I need to let you know there is absolutely nothing in this world you can do without anyone else that don't look like you. Okay? There's absolutely nothing in the world they can do without operating with us. We have to learn to really work together and accept the differences, respect the differences. You don't have to change who you are, but you do need to build those solid relationships. It is so, so important. That's number one, because I think, what I'm hearing in the media and where we are right now, we are somewhat in our talk and our walk, we're separating ourselves. I was at the movie that I'm in, Four Way Stop. It played over at Jacoby Arts Center in Alton, Illinois last night. And when I got there, because I spoke on the panel last night as well, but when I got there, the entire room, 90% of the room was whites, and they were sitting to the left of the room, and then on the other side was 10% black. And literally, no one said this is where the blacks sit, this is where the whites sit, this is just where we just automatically landed. And when it was time for me to speak, I called it out. I said, look around the room. Look to your left, look to your right. Is everybody looking like each other? And that's when they noticed. I said, so what I'm going to do is ask the blacks right now to get up and move and fill in the seats over here with the white people before we even get started. Because if we can't learn to live together, break bread together, and learn together and move together, we will constantly be fighting a fight that cannot be won by anybody. So thank you. But relationships are so important, but it's about acceptance. It's about acceptance. You don't have to, when I come to the room, I'm black. When I leave, I'm black. And it doesn't matter if I'm in the show Menopause the Musical. I was the only black actress in that piece. It's the longest running musical here in Missouri still to date. 15 months, 8 shows a week. I was the only black girl in it. I took Denise Times' place, and when I got there, they were like, oh, I could just tell that I wasn't necessarily openly welcomed at that time. But by the time I left now, those same ladies work for me in Show Me Arts Academy. Okay? Because what we had in common was our gifts. We're actors. We are professionals. We're entertainers who need to give back to a community or to our children in general pertaining to the arts. And who could I call on? I had to call on other individuals that knew something about the arts, and they happened to be white. They happened to be black. They happened to be Latino. Well, whoever it is, build those relationships based off of what you are trying to do in life. Don't base them off of, well, you know, if I don't choose my cousin, then, you know, my mama gonna be mad. And then tell mama, look, mama, I love you and I love your sister, but her daughter is not who I need to put in this position. You have to just be honest about that. Nicci, like Nicci stated, when I saw her, I knew she was the one. And I'm going to tell you, before I chose Nicci, I did a run on that exact same show. And guess who I had in that show? And if you look and you know I love you, but I speak from the hip. It was my cousin. It was my cousin, and it didn't work out. So I was in search for a Nicci Roach. And when I saw her, I knew because she was professional. This young lady here, and not trying to get off of course here, but when we're talking about relationships, Nicci, we did this in 2004. This 2016. And we don't talk every day. We both busy. But when you have a real solid relationship and something comes up, it go, oh, I know who I need to call. I can't tell you how many times I've called this young lady to say, Nicci, let me run this past you, or Nicci, I'm trying to do this. What do you think? And it's there. It's just automatically there because we accept each other for who we are. That's so important in relationships. So Antoinette was so sweet when she said call. We all real busy, but I'm going to say this to you. If I can help anybody, anytime, in any way, because that's who I am. I may not be able to answer a phone call right now, right away, but if you inbox me on Facebook, I'll get that message, and I promise you, even if I don't have the answer for you, I'm sure I know somebody who does. And I will always be about connecting because we have to help each other, right? Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So Jade, still about fearlessness. You have a different question. So whatever you're looking at, consider it notes. So my question to you, and I'm shooting off the hip now because I know you all. So I know what you can pour to them. Jay, oftentimes we get hung up in because we're in a job, we're trying to transition from a job, or let me put it like this. We have a job, we have a family's priority, we're trying to balance this, we're trying to also maybe start something. You have three prong. Your kids, you ride or die for your family. And her family will be posted up in the corner while she's working, no matter where she is. How is it that you have balanced your family? You have launched a career that your own production company that you started out, you kind of dabbled in it, but now it has exploded, and now you're getting ready to do the online radio station. And you're on a station 7 days a week on somebody's station. How are you balancing that? Because sometimes you can have all that going on but not successful because you end up dropping some balls. How are you managing this?
See, that's when you're supposed to say, don't look down. What did you say I'm doing? Oh, help me. So what I thought I was doing is now coming into a different focus now. There are a few myths that exist in how we're operating in life. Balance is a myth. It's a myth. And multitasking is a myth. We literally, if we break down every single thing, we're only doing one thing at any given time. And there's a quote, but since I'm using my phone for the broadcast, I can't look it up and be real jazzy quick with it. But in my version, the Jade International version, JIV, is that if you're doing two things at once, you're not doing any one thing well. Now, don't get me wrong. You can be quick and effective. That's what computers were. We thought the computers were doing everything. They're still executing one task at a time, one thing at a time. And they're just doing it faster than we can. Even jugglers. Wow, you've got all these balls in the air. Their hands only touch one ball at a time. So with that said, we've all been in a place where we're dropping some. What's happened for me is that I know that there's going to be some that fall off, because there's a lot of them to do, especially in these spaces as mother, wife, entrepreneur, employee, contractor, all the things that you have before you. That's a lot to do. So some stuff will fall off. What will happen, life will either teach you or you'll decide which things are going to take that priority. Because life will teach you. And at some point, you'll stop saying, I can, yes, yes, yes. Because remember I was talking about your hiney hanging out. Then you didn't do this, you didn't do that. This wasn't your best, this wasn't your grandest. Hopefully along the way you're learning. So what's happened for me recently is to learn 3 key things. The first one is build my work around the life I want. This young lady said, strive for happiness. The life I wanted was to be at home with my children, to spend as much time as I can with them, to be the mother that can pick them up from school, to go to their stuff. And what would make the world fit around that? Because trying to fit it into the world where I was working 60 hours a week, where I was trying to balance and do all these things, those things did not work well in the same space, and they ended up competing, and then the children ended up being the ones that were tattered and torn, or the work would be the thing that was tattered and torn, and then I'm in the middle feeling really conflicted and frustrated. So once those things started occupying their own space, I started to find relief and peace and success, because there was those delineations. So after 3, I'm no good to you. Because from there up until they go to bed, it was happening anyway, but I kept fighting this thing like, okay, let me just make another call. Or that's dangerous in a lot of ways, because anything that you try to do, your mind becomes split. You know, our Bible says a double-minded man is unstable. Tis true. And until we start being the designers of this, then we start learning it through bumps and bangs and valleys and peaks and all that. But you can get a rein on this thing. So design your work around the life you want to have. And I started that. One coach told me, well, what would your best diva day look like? And I was like, diva day? Who has diva days? That's not like literally a diva. I knew it existed, but I'm like, do we get diva days? Do we get to have those? And she said, describe it. And then she said, describe it in color. And then she said, describe it in detail. And then she said, describe it in terms of time. I said, oh, well, I would wake up and nobody else would be up. And I would have tea and I would walk. I would take my time. I would make breakfast, or somebody else would, or some device would. And then I'd greet my family. And then she's like, yes, tell me more. And she said, now that's your framework. Now what else happens? From there, I figured out, okay, so what do I need? What obstacles do I have, or what things need to be adjusted to have that at this level, or to get as close to that as I can? And literally, when she says kids in the corner, that's the life. My babies are coming along with me. I had an intern that helped me with business, and I had another teenager that was a mommy's helper. I had a minivan full of 2 teenagers, 4 kids, a pack of sack lunches, and all that one summer with a makeup person that was also, I guess she was in her 20s, and we all rolled to the same spot to run an all-new television show in St. Louis. It was the crew. They were like, what is going on? We'd pull up to the drive-thru and they're like, whoa. And when I take a break, I'm playing with my children. I mean, think about it. Filmmakers. Beyonce's baby right there. And their children become then exposed and incorporated into what better education and opportunity is there than that? All right? So the second thing on getting this balance, this thing in perspective is, and I highly recommend this book, The One Thing. Jay Papasan and another fella who I should know, but I talked to Jay personally. And we talked to Ariana, yep, on one of my shows, the Rare Gym Show, give thanks. But those opportunities come. The one thing is, and you start to ask yourself this question, what one thing could I do this week or right now that would make the other things unnecessary or easier? It's a focusing question. So you could say 3 things, or you could say, well, probably the best thing I could do is get a schedule or get in shape. And then you could still keep bringing that down to the very smallest level. And so even while you're sitting in this seat right now, what's the very best thing you could do right now to make the other stuff that you're grappling with unnecessary or easier? Simplify it. 1, tune in. Lean into this. If there's discomfort, grab whatever you can from this and figure out how you're going to implement it. And whatever those obstacles are, start to remove them. We keep trying to go over them, deal with them, and wrestle. Get rid of it. If I'm no good at this, well, then stop doing it. It seems simple, but really, it's so much simpler than wrestling with this thing over and over again. I don't work well after 9 o'clock. Why do I keep trying to do that? Is the thing. And the final thing is about relationships. So I love how Marty said you could pick up that phone and call. There's a thing they call cold calling. There should be no cold calls. No cold calls. Every relationship that you have should be warm so that, you pick it up, it's good. Not only can that call be made, but they're happy to receive it. Not like, ooh, stopping the call from coming through. You're like, oh, Marty, what's up, girl? How you been? Right. Instead of, I'll get that later, or something. And even still, if that's not the thing. But for me, with relationships, they should all be warm. And the way you do that is to make them tangible. These aren't fleeting things that happen out here. And things don't happen by chance. There's no chance passing. It was nice to see some people that I recognize today, but those aren't chance passings. And I'm pretty sure that there's going to be something that comes from us seeing each other again in this space. And at this time, I'm looking at somebody in particular. But that's a part of all this happening. These are tangible things. Now, you may not be able to give full attention to something at any given time, but I'm telling you, if you see somebody, then what's coming from your heart is something that is true and felt. How are you doing? I mean that. Not, oh, how you doing? I'm going. Well, I'm fine. I'll tell you next time. And for me, that became blaringly obvious when I met Michael Brown Jr. on his first day of his last year of high school, seemingly by chance. But this became so laser precise that I now know that every relationship every exchange needs to be tangible. I didn't know him. Any child that was going together after cheering him on his first day, I showed out. God, you better get in there. What are you most looking forward to? He's like, being a senior and graduating. Didn't know. 13 months later, he'd be the being, the catalyst. I couldn't have known. Now, I was fortunate to see later on how that connection became a part of something bigger, and we don't always see that, but know this, that there is no exchange that is by accident. So make it meaningful. That snapshot was one of the few ever seen with him with a wide, full-tooth grin that even his family to this day thanks me for, that they had something tangible that reflected that. You might not have a picture, but your life and that imprint will be there. So at least make the effort to be curious enough to leave something in every exchange. Relationships, build your work around the life you want to have. And relationships meaningful. I wrote that. Yes. Yeah, the one thing. See, I was talking about too much. The one thing.
Thank you.
So still on Becoming Fearless. Still on Becoming Fearless. Nancy, you went through a transition coming from corporate world, doing well, quite well, and then bam, a surprise. You're now having to make new decisions, create a new you. What were you not prepared for when you launched your company?
Okay. Well, as Nicci said, I grew up in a generation where, you work hard and you get a job and you work hard in that job, and hopefully they see your hard work and your talents, and you grow. And I did that. I tried very hard to, please my boss and go that extra mile. And so and not always was I promoted, my colleague would be, or, I had, my major disappointments too, but I knew that I was capable of doing so much more. So I worked very hard, and I did. I was in a leadership position as my career started to climb, and I was working for Mercy, my last position, before I started my own business, and I had a leadership position there, loved Mercy. I thought that would be my final stomping ground, and I would retire and collect my pension and be off. So I was only there for about 2.5 years, and the hospital system, like most hospital systems in St. Louis, are growing and they're changing. And Mercy kind of was facing headwinds, as they would refer it. And so they let everybody at a certain level in their position know that their job may be in jeopardy. But if you are, relevant, you're the only person doing your job, you'll be fine. And at that time, I was leading all of the health foundations throughout the system. And I thought, well, surely I'm safe. I'm the only one doing that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I was let go, blindsided. My boss and I had a very good relationship. And I totally caught off guard. And but all the while, as I was building my career, I wanted to start my own business, but I was, quite frankly, afraid because, I was a divorced mom, and I had 3 children, and I had the mortgage and bills and you name it, like we all do. And so I never really fulfilled that. And this little flame in my belly just kept getting brighter and bigger and became an inferno. So when my job, they let me go. They gave me a package, and I'm like, okay, I have some time to find another job, So I start, like you all, relied on my network, which I had grown throughout my career. And I'd go on these interviews, and another round back, and then after 5 or 6 rounds, it went to somebody else. And I started to really lose my confidence. Like, what is going on? I've got all these years of experience, and nobody is hiring me. And so I remember calling my mom. She's never worked a day in her life outside the home. Did a great job raising us. And she said, Nancy, do you think it might be your age? That never crossed my mind. And I'm 54. I never thought that would be an issue. And I said, Mom, I don't know. I don't know if that is the case. But she's like, well, you wanted to start your own business. Why don't you try it? So I did. And I regret, honestly, not doing it sooner. It is hard. I am not going to lie. Financially, I'm in nowhere near where I was. So that's okay, Nancy. I'm doing what I love. But I can tell you, all throughout my career, I had this affinity toward helping people, but really, I'll not lie, I like to help women. Especially, it is hard for us to grow in this, especially in the healthcare system where it is an all-boy network, and there's very few women in the C-suite. So I had a team, and if I saw a couple of people that I felt like truly had the skills, and maybe they're not getting a break, I was helping them. And I'll never forget, after I left, one of the people on my team came up to me and said, Nancy, I've learned so much from you in the 2 years than I have ever in my college years. Thank you. And to me, that was like the biggest, it's such a nice present to have somebody tell you that, because you're helping them. And so, transition, I met with lots of my friends who had their own business, and one of them, a good friend of mine, said, Nancy, jump, and the net will be there. And I thought, that was like my ding, 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 ding moment that I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Because you know what? There are jobs. Maybe they're not going to be at the level where I was, but I'm confident I could get another job. So I started, and my business is still very young. It'll be 2 years in November. I work my butt off. I really do. And my husband, like last night, I worked till I don't know, it's almost like 8:30, and I was so tired. You ever have that feeling when you're just fatigued, like you're achy, and he's like, Nancy, just stop, and I did. I just said, I'm done. I'm done. So is it like the best thing I've ever done, in terms of financial reward? No. Is it what I want and I'm enjoying it and I'm seeing growth? Yes. I'm actually bringing on a first employee in the fall. So thank you. But, it's all about what you put into it and what you believe in yourself. Because I really, really believe anything is possible. I do honestly believe that. I know that sounds like a cliche, but if you have that drive, that little fire, and it keeps growing, don't extinguish it, because you will regret it. I mean, nobody wants to go to our deathbed saying woulda, coulda, shoulda. We need to try. And there are jobs, there really are. And there are opportunities here, especially for women. I haven't even tapped in all of them. My business plan's not 100% yet. The Small Business Administration will help you put your business for free. I mean, there are resources out there for us. It's really, becoming a women-owned business. I haven't done that yet, but there are companies like, the Fortune 500s who certainly want that, and they look for WBE businesses. So the transition, anything we do, you got to believe in yourself. And I put my head at night on my pillow and have insomnia sometimes because I have so much on my mind. And then other times I put my head on my pillow and I'm fast asleep. So, the good, the bad, the ugly, it all comes in anything we do. So believe in yourself and don't not listen to your inner voice.
So becoming fearless still. Antoinette, I know that we're going to kind of take a flip side of Nancy's experience, because you were sought out for your skill set. You could pick where you wanted to go, and you're a minority, you're a female, you're African American, so people want you. But you decided, I'm leaving. I'm leaving the space of working for someone else. When did you know it was time to quit?
Now this recorded now. When did I know it was time for me to quit? And it's interesting because I've come at this point a few times working internally with organizations. One of the things that I want to say before I kind of dive a little bit more into that is that you have to listen to what Nancy said. Listen to yourself. And I've always been an entrepreneur in my head. Every time I go into a company, I'm always trying to create something new, and I'm always assessing it and saying, where can we improve in this area? And I'm always kicking and screaming to try to get it done. And you have to recognize that some organizations are not ready for that. They don't want that. And you can make the decision of, do I want to stay here and deal with it, or do I move on? And it just so happened for me in this last situation, I moved on to create my own. I will say, prior to my last job, there was another company I was at. It was an agency, and everyone loves the agency culture in the marketing world. It's like what they strive for. It wasn't for me. I always knew I was socially minded. But then also any company that outright laughs at people because of their accents, or, I had staff members that used the N-word and then realized I was in the room. And when you go to the HR person and they tell you, well, when I came here, the culture bothered me as well, but I learned to deal with it. when I had that conversation, that's when I realized, oh, I'm gonna always have this pivotal moment in my life where I need to decide, am I going to assimilate and deal with it, or am I gonna be true to myself and be happy? Going back to that happiness piece. So in my last job, while yes, I was sought out, the position was actually created for me. I was the first marketing and events manager and head of communications at this company. And I loved the work itself. Working in diversity and inclusion is so pivotal and important. Like right now we hear it as like the new buzzwords, but this has been going on for a long time. And it's something that we need to strive for in every situation, individually at that micro level, as well as at that macro level in systems, right? So I knew I needed to be in this room, but they weren't ready for me. They weren't ready for the opportunity, and I also realized that they didn't necessarily respect me. I was in situations in which I felt that my voice wasn't being heard, and I actually spoke up about it. How is it that someone else can say the exact same thing? You told me no, and then you told them yes. The same boss actually said to me, well, usually we only hire managers if they have a master's degree. And I looked at this individual and I said, I have a master's. What are you talking about? But I didn't have a master's from the University of Chicago like my other colleague. I didn't have a master's from WashU like my other two colleagues and like that individual. So already I was in an uphill battle. I felt like an African-American woman that was literally being squeezed, and that you think it wouldn't happen in a diversity and inclusion space. Literally, and what was interesting, no more than a year later, they hired the first male in the actual company, and he was a manager, and he only had a bachelor's degree. So, you have those moments where you sit there and you say, okay, do I sit and deal with it and continue? Because believe me, PTSD and someone that, we talk about domestic violence and mental violence, right? That doesn't just happen in the house, at home. That happens in companies as well. And you have to sit there and kind of check yourself and say, I need to exhibit self-care and check my own mental health. And I realized that in that company, you know what? You're not worth my sanity. You're not worth it. And you also have to reflect, because you know what? We're humans. We make mistakes. That's normal. And I noticed that job was making me angrier. And it in turn was coming into my household, because you spend more time at work than you do at home. So if you're not happy at home, it's most of the time going to reflect in your personal life. And I wasn't really to sacrifice my kids, sacrifice my husband, sacrifice the relationships that I have across my world to fulfill your mission. So then I had to ask myself, what's my mission? And how do I fulfill that? And then that's when I started to work towards it. It was hard. It was the first time I ever left a position without having another job. First time. And I'm gonna be honest, I went to, being married, I went to my husband, hey, are you okay with this? And the reason, to be honest, because I was always the primary breadwinner. So if I left a job without having any income steadily coming in, we were feeling it, and we're still feeling it. But he believed in my dream, and I in turn believed in my dream. And it's been 2 years, actually. August 23rd will be 2 years from when I did the first one. Thank you. And sometimes you have to take that leap. You really do. Because 2 years ago, I never would have thought that I'm traveling around the country giving talks and speeches in rooms, that I'm sitting here talking to leaders of top organizations, and people are sponsoring my organization. I never, especially in St. Louis, when I'm just being honest here. When I was growing up, I was striving to be like my mom, because I thought that was what you were supposed to do. My mom was making $19,000 a year, and I thought that was what you were supposed to go for. That's what I knew. And what I've learned just on this journey is that, one, we need to provide more access and opportunities to our people. Because I've in turn seen the work that I've done and how it's reflected on my own family, and how my brothers and sisters, we grew up in drug-ridden city county, like all these different areas. This is truth here. This isn't the white picket fence with the tennis court. You know, this is when you create your own gymnasium by flipping down the hill. Like, this is what, you know, and that mattress. You fall, you wake, you shake it off, you keep moving. You know? But if we continue to go on our own journeys and then forget to look back and help others, are we really being true? So that's one of the things. That's why when I mentioned, that's why Marty's laughing at me, because she knows I'm always out of town. She's like, girl, how you going to answer these phone calls?
That's why when she said for y'all to call her, I'm like, when?
I mean, it's the truth. But because of me opening my doors and not saying no and saying, I will meet with you, some of the people that have gone through my lives literally came from that relationship that was created because I didn't say no. Am I starting to say, you know, maybe a little bit more just because of my kind of the restraints of my time? Yes, but I will take a phone call. I have conversations with people all the time. I might be typing on my computer while we're talking, but I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to what you're saying, and I'm trying to build a relationship with you. So, you know, you have to, when you're in that moment, if you feel that you're bogged down and you feel that that company is not representative of you, whether as a mother, as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, as an individual, then it's not worth it. And I know it's easier said, like me saying that's a privilege. Most people don't have that privilege. The fact that I had my husband to say, go ahead, that is something that some people don't have, and I recognize that privilege, right? But even if, you know what, if you don't have that privilege to do that, then try to do a little side hustle in a good way. But, you know, we have weekends, and those times that we're sitting there binge watching Netflix shows, and believe me, I am guilty. I love me some Walking Dead, you know. That's the time that you could be working towards your dream. That time when we're on Facebook, and I'm guilty, on Twitter, on all these different social media accounts, if you're going to be on them, use them to build your brand. Don't be on them just to sit there and read what other people are doing. And girl, I like that. That's nice. No, build your brand. Like, there's people that literally message me and just say, everything you share on Facebook is so inspiring. Like, I follow you just because of what you share. And at first when they told me that, I'm thinking, well, I just kind of share what inspires me. But then I realized that's part of building my brand. So, you know, don't just use all these moments. Yes, you can relax, and it's very important. But always look at, who am I, and how do I reflect that onto others? Because that's what's going to help you in your journey.
So we are running a little over, but I'm going to ask this one last thing. This is out of the book of Destiny, Step Into Your Purpose, T.D. Jakes. And then we'll take just a couple questions, and then we'll have our closing remarks. So, when you share your dreams with people who cannot envision more, their fearful comments can be discouraging. When people encourage you to live a life that yields less than what you're capable of accomplishing, that's usually a selfish motive. When the people closest to you try to confine your life in a small space, it's typically not because they're bad people or because they want you to feel like a failure. Most often they fear you will outgrow them. Shift when you enter new space. Not everybody's going to be a cheerleader. What advice would you give to us in regards to getting through this shift?